the EpicVerse Podcast.
Speaking of time machines, this week we're talking about time travel.
Wow, I never.
Is it like deja vu?
Never would have guessed.
Yeah,
well, who could have seen this coming?
Hey Ben, what do you have to say about deja vu?
What?
You weren't here for that episode. You don't get to talk about it.
We already talked about deja vu. What are you talking about? Literally, we were all talked about deja vu when we talked.
Are you sure that's not just in your mind?
We talked. Yeah.
Are you sure that you're not just having deja vu right now?
Huh?
Are you gaslighting me?
I mean, gaslighting could be a form of time travel. Even go back in time, make something not happen in your head.
Wow.
Listen, if two people have a conversation and then you go back and like trick that person to believing that conversation never happened, isn't that kind of like changing time? Like you're going back into their memories and editing things.
Time travel is real, folks.
You're not changing what? No,
you're not editing their memories.
Oh, mercy. You're not changing.
That is the best kind of time travel. Editing.
Check this
memories.
out. It's kind of interesting. I don't know.
Well, some of that deja vu stuff is kind of making me think, because I've heard about this before, where there's like this theory. It's more like a theory than anything else right now, but there's this theory among some scientists and some like psychologists and stuff that we're born with like the memories and experiences of like our ancestors imprinted on our DNA.
Yes.
And we're not necessarily, we don't know exactly how to like unlock them, but it's possible that like most of our like basic instincts, I guess, like survival instincts and some of that type of stuff might be coming from like our ancestors and stuff too. So
what if we invented a machine where if you laid down in it, it could unlock the DNA of your ancient ancestors and you could relive their memories?
Yeah.
Wow, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like Assassin's Creed. Wow, I've never heard that before.
Yeah,
but no, I mean I have heard that before. Like I have actually I read about that somewhere, that like ancestral memories, like
that's literally what that is though.
Yeah, but it's like an actual thing that people believe could be a thing.
Yeah, genetic
like
memory.
You can unlock something in your genetics or DNA or whatever, and
yeah, they believe that that's how some people are, like that's how some people can be like really, really talented at some things that they shouldn't be talented at. Like you just naturally have an aptitude for certain things, and you find out that people in your history had it, things like that. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just really interesting.
That's a very fascinating subject to me.
Yeah,
that'd
absolutely.
Be really interesting to look more into.
There was this guy specifically. This is in Scientific American. He talked about how this guy went around just investigating savants.
Mm-hmm.
Like Leslie Limke, who is a musical virtuoso who never had a lesson in his life. He just was incredibly good at playing music, and everybody was just like blown away by it. But there's no evidence of where it came from. But if he had somebody in his past, an ancestor or something that was a virtuoso, and he unlocked those, or because the thing is, a lot of times with savants, they have other issues mentally.
Yeah,
almost like their brain didn't have what it needed to. We all know that like our bodies and our brains are known for doing things like people lose half of their brain and then their brain adapts to use the other side, or like people get hit in the head and wake up and know a different language. Weird stuff like that. We've talked about that a little bit.
Stuff like that's happened too.
Yeah. So imagine, you're being born and your brain is developing, and maybe you don't have a center for your memories to develop correctly. So it goes back and it uses genetic data that it already has to make something, and now you're a virtuoso and you don't even know why.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
Is that why some people are prodigies too? Because of things like that?
Hey, it's possible. I don't know.
Ancestrally, like let's say their like ancestors were amazing at these different things, and so they've like learned all of those things, but they're able to learn them really quick because of that reason.
Right.
Or they excel in them because of that reason. Like, I've always wondered why prodigies are prodigies. Like how do they adapt? Like how do they adapt to learning something so quickly and so well? More so than anybody else,
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
This was one of the earlier like ideas of genetic memory was in 1940. A guy named A.A. Brill. quoted William Carpenter, who, in comparing math prodigy Zara Colburn calculating powers to Mozart's mastery of musical composition, he wrote the following: in each of the foregoing cases, then, we have a peculiar example of the possession of an extraordinary congenial aptitude for certain mental activity, which showed itself at so early a period as to exclude the notion that could have been acquired by the experience of the individual. To such congenital gifts we give the name of intuitions. It can scarcely be questioned that the like of instincts of the lower animals, they are the expression of constitutional tendencies embodied in the organism of the individual who manifests them. Which is just a fancy way of saying they got it from their ancestors, but still, right. I mean, that's a really fascinating concept in and of itself, that you could just, and maybe in a way that's kind of a form of time travel. Yeah, being able to like you said, maybe sometimes maybe some of these memories are unlocking are, maybe it goes both ways in some instances. Maybe there's some weird radiation or something that like hits somebody, and maybe they have the ability to unlock memories of things coming in the future, Right. Yeah, exactly. We don't know, because we only perceive time as linear. We know it has a beginning and an end. And I always thought this was really fascinating. Like when you actually like sit down and like think on the concept of like infinity, like it's difficult, but you can kind of conceive of an idea where like a line that has no end. It's hard because, I mean, after like so long of a distance, it's hard to like think that far away, but imagine a line that has no beginning either. Like we can't, it's hard to conceive of that because our brains have a beginning. So all we know about time is that it has a beginning and an end, or maybe a beginning and maybe one day no end. But to conceive of time before that didn't exist, it's like, well, what was there? A lot of times we come to the conclusion that there was nothing. But what if that's just because our view of time is skewed, Well, yeah, exactly. It's I think that's a much more, that seems to me a much more viable way of one day being able to tap into a form of time travel, is like linking through like DNA or something like that, much more than like just like a machine or something that you just like stick yourself in and then being like zapped into another time. So interesting. Like reliving past ancestors' lives through I mean, that's true. I feel like that could be way more plausible than something else, than like physically going back in time, if that makes sense. You're like going back in memories time, but you're not going back in time. Exactly. Time. I mean, what if you could do that with other things too? What if you could what if one day humans are able to do something like that, where they can take DNA from all sorts of different things, then they like can, a freaking dinosaur and like go back and be a dinosaur, or even like a tree. What if you could take DNA from like a tree, but then you can like get the experiences of the centuries of what's happened around that tree and stuff, and what it's like to be a tree. Or like, I mean, if you really want to get like real fancy, Megatherium, go back, find out when he got stuck in the mud and died. We could see how the giant sloth died out. We could in fact find the DNA of a giant sloth and become the last giant sloth. The memories, the last of the Megatherium. Listen, you get to watch it sitting, pooping, eating slowly, and then one day just die. Well, on that,
the EpicVerse Podcast.